Sawadee Krap. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Aston from Green Radar Singapore. So today I'm trying to share with you the ever-evolving email threatscape that you will see in your day-to-day life. Right? I think a lot of us has been using our mobile phones for checking email most of the time. Right? I think you spend more time on your phone rather on your laptop or your desktop. So that is where I want to share with you the different kind of attacks that has been happening and how should you be preventing those attacks being targeted towards you, right? So you look at the first report that I have shared here, phishing makes up over 43% of email attacks, right? Phishing is a very common attack across many different ways of attacks in the email side of things. And it doesn't just cover just email. It has voice phishing, it has even video phishing and whatsoever. But email is always the most common ones, right? And you look at it, email-based phishing has been surging over the past couple of years, especially during COVID. No one is traveling, everyone work from home, everyone liaise through email, right? When you do not have that face-to-face interaction, how does the attackers start to attack you? It's all through your email communication. So with that, you can see over 400% surge. That's incredible. And with the trend of AI coming into place, right? You have ChatGPT, right? Attackers also trying to leverage tools like this to automate the attacks, right? For the legacy kind of solutions, they are all based on registry-based or signature-based attacks, where they have a software that will look through a database of IP address or whether is it a spoof domain or whatsoever, and tell you whether are they phishing emails or not. But what if those attackers are using AI to do this? They are using legitimate sources, right? They can spin up domains from Microsoft, from Azure, right? From Google. So those are all recognized, trustful domains that every software will then allow. How do you then identify those attacks? And lastly, this is an example whereby the attackers are using Google Forms as a way to attack all the different companies. This is a very high-profile attack that has happened last year. The attack is called Bazaar Call, which they are using Google Forms, send it to the user, ask them to fill up forms, and with that, capture all the information, and then use it for their further attacks going forward. So these are the ways whereby changes to all the different attacks used by the different hackers all around the world. How are you going to catch up? So what are the kind of attacks that you will see nowadays? One example is this, AI-generated spam. Doesn't need to be written by any human, right? The attackers will just give them some certain prompts. They will auto-generate the content that they need. They do minor changes to it and they can blast out to all their database, right? So this is one way you look at it. When invitation from a legitimate company, they can spoof the domain, they can spoof the user. They make it look like it's coming from a legitimate business. But when you click on that link, they actually bring you to another place where they start to capture your data. So this is where they will do the data crawling first. They might not attack you right now, but they keep updating their user database. So when they are ready, they will start a big all-round attacks to make sure that you are well targeted. The other ways that you look at it is the DGA domain hosting, right? Dynamic hosting where they can generate very complex new domain out using legitimate sources. Whether is it spinning up new domains within Microsoft, spinning up new domains within Google Cloud, right? So these are very easily spinned up by them, and usually they are very short-lived. Whenever phishing attacks happen, they will spin up the domain within 2 days, they send out the attacks, and within 1 week, they bring it down. So how fast can your system catch up with this kind of attacks? So this is also things that you have to keep in mind. A very I would not say new, but a common attack being pushed out is a QR code phishing. Users start to receive a lot of QR code through their emails. And a lot of times you are checking these emails through your phone. Right? how is your existing system going to identify this QR code, whether is it legitimate or not? It might be coming out from a business that you are dealing with constantly, right? It can be a very popular business here. For example, it can be a CP. It can be a bank that send out this email to you with a QR code, right? So with that, you scan this QR code, they will bring you to a site. This site will tell you, oh, can you fill in a customer survey? With this customer survey, you will be given probably a $20 voucher, $50 voucher, right? You look at it, oh, for example, it comes from a bank. Oh, it asked me to do a survey. Using this QR code, I do a survey, I get a $20 voucher. Why not? Then they'll start to ask you for information. You key in, and the key point is what? They want all your personal info and probably financial info as well, your credit card information, right? So these are the different ways in terms of how are they trying to get information out of you. Okay, you might think that, okay, whenever from email, this kind of thing, I won't click. But how many in your organization does your user is educated in this? Not everyone. It just takes one user in the organization to be attacked, and information start to flow up. So this is where we need to have a comprehensive way in terms of having a software or having a system in place is one, user education is another, right? And a very common example that I want to show you here is a phishing email. You look at this. It looks exactly like what Microsoft will send out to their users. Come from a legit domain. This is their own company domain, right? And they tell you, oh, you have certain messages that being blocked. Can you click on this link to see what are the emails being blocked? Do you want to release or not? The IP, the owner is all legit. It's from Microsoft, right? The domain is also legit because it's also hosted in Microsoft, right? It has good IP reputation. I can tell you over 90% of existing solution will let this through. Because why? They only look at certain metrics and doesn't go into detail in terms of how do we identify those are phishing. So when you have a solution in place, you need to ensure, do they have the knowledge and capability to identify, even with a good reputation, are there anything that they should look at? And this is the one that was focusing on value attacks, BEC, right? We call it the business email compromise, where the sender can be disguised as a CEO of a company or a chairman of the company, sending emails internally, right? Sending emails internally to the user or externally to someone else to say that I want certain financial changes to something. And this example, you can see a real sender, even though you look at it, from the email client or even from your phone, it shows as Ken here, right? Who is the CEO of Fortinet, for example. Right? But the real sender is actually someone else. You see the one highlighted? It's pbloom at sebringradio.com. So when you check your email from your phone, you always see the display name. How many times do you click again and see who is the real email address behind? How many times do you do that? Probably once in a while, if you find that, I haven't received it from this person, who is this? Or if it's someone that you know, then you will just gladly read the content and gladly reply anything that the person has sent you. Am I right? So this is how majority of the time people get attacked in this sense, because they don't usually double check the actual email address behind. So even if you look at this, on the email client on Outlook, they show exactly the same, kensia.fortinet.com. But on the back end, it's actually scripted. I can change the display name to whatever I want. But when you click to a reply, they will reply to something else. Right? They reply to another email address. So these are all the nitty-gritty details that you as a user will also need to be aware of. So there is a lot of things that the software can do, but the user will also need to be educated. Right? But with an AI managed solution, there are many ways that we can start to block this even before they get into the mailbox. So these are the things that you need to take note of. In the ever-changing world right now, the kind of attacks that they do, the more automated the solution, the more protected you are. So this is a target attack against the finance people. Very common nowadays as well. Where once they know who are the finance personnel within the company, they will send specific emails to those people within the group and tell them to say, I want to change the account information of a certain vendor, the account information of a certain customer. So when they do that change, they're actually sending money to someone else instead, right? So these are also things that we need to take note of, especially user education within very sensitive departments, finance, HR, or accounting, and whatsoever. These are the ones that they will also attack, not just the VIPs, the chairman, or whatsoever. Within the company itself, there are certain departments which they find value attacks, they will also target those people. So there are many stages in terms of how attackers will attack an organization. They will start by gathering data of personnel, know the organization chart in how the business function, and slowly have focused attacks on different group of users within the organization. So you see, when they click in all those links, they give you an attachment. Within an attachment, they point you to a non-phishing site, bypass any checks that your existing system will have, right? They don't have any links within the email, so that existing solution that checks for any links within will not be able to detect, because the links are within the PDF. And within the PDF, they redirect to a legitimate site, but then they will redirect again. So how many times do they check? That's the thing you need to take note. They can do multiple redirection. So how many checks does your existing solution check? Right? Probably only one level or two. And they always have a list of IP address or the URLs that they will check. They will not check for all. And this is a very common case, domain spoofing, easily done, right? Where I can just spoof your domain and make you think that I'm sending in within your company. But this is probably someone outside, right? So when the message flow comes in, you can see it was sent to multiple incoming messages rejected. So ask you to reset your password. So point to a fake Microsoft website, look exactly the same. They can spoof it as a Microsoft IP address or the domain name, and you will just key in your username and password. So this is where your credentials will also be taken away. So even you say, oh, I will have 2FA in place, right? There are sites where they will actively also track your phone, because most of the time, what are you doing this on? Or your mobile device, right? They will track all your incoming messages when you have your 2FA. On the back end, immediately their bots will log in first, change your account. Then after that, even with your 2FA, the person already have your credentials. They change whatever credentials or settings that they need within the system. So there isn't a foolproof solution to it. So that's why email security is also a focus point in terms of your overall cybersecurity requirements. Because if you look at it, everyone talking about networking, talking about the firewall that you have, whether is it internal facing, external facing, but which is the most vulnerable? Your users, the email, everyone has it. Just one or two of them compromise, then that's it, right? So the rest are just other examples. Due to time constraint, I will just briefly go through. These are targeting personal data through a spoof website that look exactly like a government agency website, telling you to enter your information, right? So actually, what do you need to counter all these changes in the ways people are trying to attack you? An AI-driven phishing protection system, right? It can be from any vendor. I'm trying to tell you, you need to have something that is smart enough that when the email comes in, there should be checks that is done automatically, right? From analyzing from a web level to the different elements within the email, whether is it URL patterns, whether is it scripts, any scripts running, whether is it images, right? Even images can be sent to you that look like an email, but sometimes when you just click on certain part of that image, they will start to execute stuff within your desktop. This is a very common attack methods within the Windows platform as well. So, and the behaviors, right? There are ways in terms of how the attackers will want to attack. So the AI-driven protection system need to be able to detect all this anomaly. And if there are any URL within an email, automatically the URL will need to be traced as well. So the web analyzer actually needs to track every URL, even if it's redirected, to go to the end website and check for any anomaly on that URL. Whether it's a phishing site, whether is it an attack, whether it's a malware, or asking you to download anything to your machine. So when it's cleared, then they return the result to your system. If it's good, they will send it to your mailbox, whether is it Microsoft, Google, or whatsoever, or not, we quarantine it. So this should be automated, and it should be updated regularly. And in fact, on the back end, if it's good, you should also have a SOC in place, an expert to look into all this as well. Because yes, AI-driven, automate as much as we can, but human intervention is also required. There's so much AI can do, right? It's still growing. AI is also written by humans, right? We are ever evolving. The AI machine only learns whatever is being fed to them. So the human intervention will also need to come in because of the local context, right? The software might be coming from a US, EMEA, or even in Asia. Do they have the capability to identify the local culture? What kind of companies are commonly attacked? What are the language that they use, right? Like for example, in Thai, how many solutions right now are able to identify the email written in Thai, and how are they attacking the customers? How do they address a person for a start, right? So even like, for example, in Indonesia, we call people Pak. In Thailand, we call Kun. But in those email solutions, are they able to identify these kind of ways, right? So the other thing we look at is also the link. There are many links that are sent within the email, right? In Singapore government has stopped letting businesses to send URL links within the SMS or whatsoever, right? And they don't use short links anymore. There's a reason why, because you cannot detect what are the end state, because it's always hidden. So short links are all taken away. Whenever a government sends out an email, it always ends with .gov, .sg, right? So there are many ways that we also need to look at from your company perspective or your organization perspective. How are you going to detect all these different links that's coming through email, right? There are so many domains that spin up on a regular basis, on a daily basis. So this is the time whereby a dynamic phishing link inspection is required. When they do a redirection, the solution must be able to go to the end redirected link so that they can then analyze the web page, as you can see here, to see whether is it legitimate or not. And a platform that's able to detect all the different IOC elements within an email. This has to be automatic, because taking away the human, the AI should take care at least 90 to 95% of the job, right? As I mentioned earlier, multi-language support, QR code phishing must be always there. So think of what your existing system can do, and the different ways that attackers is attacking, there is always a gap. So look at all the different methods in terms of people are trying to get to your organization, and see whether your existing system can do it or not. If not, evaluate something else. And the last thing I want to talk about is isolation, which is very important. Because end of the day, whatever checks has been done, right, there might be emails that will flow through, right? It might escape the detection mechanism. So what we can do is that at the last end of the protection, you should have isolation technology on the back end. Wherever links that you click will run on the isolation engine. Treat it as a VDI, treat it as a remote desktop, right? When banks started off with remote apps back in 80s, 90s, there's a reason why. That's for resource management. They want to save on the resources. There are apps that cannot run on desktop, right? So where after that evolved to security, where they want to deliver full desktop user experience to users, standardized. So this is also something very similar. Every link that you click will go to an isolation engine instead. It doesn't run on your mobile device or even your laptop. It will run on the isolation engine. You will see exactly the same, the website that is being populated, and you can set up your risk level based on certain mechanism that you can set, whether is it a low risk website, whether you want it to be cautious, or whether we flat out take it as a phishing site. So this is where, when you do this, they will look at it. When I say be cautious, because they're asking for credentials. When it's asking for credentials, I will prompt the user, do you want to access this website? Like for example, this is a Dropbox. Does your company actually use Dropbox? Why are they directing you to a Dropbox when I'm using a Teams? So this is where you must give user another level of thought so that they don't click immediately. So as long as you give them a second tier of protection, they think first before they do the next action. It's a way for you to reduce the number of attacks that will go through your system. And lastly is even downloading of stuff. You can protect the downloading. So anything that is being asked to download, we convert it to a PDF, view only. So nothing is executed, right? So no scripts, no anything. Anything that is going to be executed will be taken off. So it's all view only. So you can choose to select if you know it's a trusted source, but majority of the time, recommendation for security is block it out. Okay? I think I'm running out of time with that. Thank you.